live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. This is In the Bleachers. It's a sports show for the sports fan. Hi, everybody. My name's Eric Rosen. And in a few minutes, my co-host, Jamie the Sportsman Hickson, will be joining me in the studio. Right now, we got a lot of things to get into for tonight's show. A lot of good topics, including, some good topics and some sad ones, including the New York Jets. That's a sad topic unto itself right there. The second straight week that they lose against the Oakland Raiders. And then the New York Giants tonight will be opening their home tonight against the Detroit Lions, 8:30 on Monday Night Football. And the New York Yankees are looking to either get the wild card or the AL East division. And as for the New York Mets, they're just looking for the season to end and 2018 to begin. So, yeah, we have a lot of things to get up to. And, and Jamie should be joining me any minute. But in the meantime, let's get into some of the sad things that took place in the world of sports this past weekend. A beloved entertainer, manager extraordinaire from the world of professional wrestling passed away. That's none other than the Brain, Bobby Heenan, who passed away at the age of 73. And coming right now to the studio is Mr. Jamie the Sportsman Hickson. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'll be right back.
Okay, he'll be right back again.
All right.
Now he's back. No, but
This is really comical what's going on around here sometimes. Hey, guys, sorry that I came in so late. Unfortunately, we're going on autopilot again. So, needless to say, I had to be the one to sign us on, which also explains the little technical difficulty that we had earlier. But as Eric was saying, a lot of hardcore wrestling fans are in mourning tonight because Bobby Heenan did pass away. But when you think about it, his health was really, really declining badly over the last 15 years or so. He was suffering from throat cancer.
Since 2002.
He basically lost the ability to speak because of his illness. But let me tell you, if you ever found a manager, a heel manager, who perfected his craft so well and so effortlessly the way Bobby Heenan did, then you better tell me right now, because every time I saw this guy managing guys like King Kong Bundy and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff twice, and Andre the Giant,
Harley Race,
Tully
Blanchard.
Yep, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. I mean, he had a
Rick Rude.
He had a huge stable
And Big John Studd.
of wrestlers. Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy were two staples of the Heenan family, and also ravishing Rick Rude as well, because Rude was the one guy who stuck by Heenan in the family the longest.
A lot of the people he managed ended up becoming WWE Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
He himself was inducted into the Hall of Fame in the 2004 class.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about his career too was the banter and exchanges he had with the late Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, those were just classic. It was a classic case of the straight man, Mr. Monsoon, and the heel commentator, Bobby the Brain, who the fans affectionately called the Weasel, because let's face facts, he did a lot of sneaky things both inside and outside the ring. A lot of people don't know this, but he was actually a really successful wrestler long before his time in WWE. He also spent quite a bit of time in the AWA.
And WWA as well.
Yep, and the old WWA as well. And he had a lot of battles with Nick Bockwinkel. And in fact, I think he and Nick Bockwinkel were also allies at one point. But I do know for a fact that Nick Bockwinkel and him had a real classic feud going against each other in the old AWA days.
It's really sad as a fan, because I remember growing up watching with WCW and WWE, and the mouth this guy had on him. If you think of greatest managers, between him, between the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, Slick, the late Mr. Fuji. Those were four of the most... Also, the Grand Wizard of Wrestling as well. And, of course, we can never forget one Captain Lou Albano, who managed 16 World Tag Team Champions.
Yes.
Those were probably the single most well-known of the
Jim Cornette.
And also Jim Cornette, who spent a lot of his time in the NWA and later World Championship Wrestling. And now Cornette has done really good on the shoot interview circuit. He's really made his name known even 10 to 15 years after he left the business, not necessarily full-time, but he still dabbles in the business every now and then.
So, believe me, he will go down in history as one of the greatest managers, one of the greatest entertainers, and he set the standard for a lot of the commentators that you see on WWE. The way his exchanges he had with Gorilla Monsoon, it was because of those two that set the stage for guys like Mike, and for Jim Ross and Jimmy the King, Jerry the King Lawler.
Jerry the King Lawler, yeah. In fact, our mutual friend Lynn is checking out the show right now, and she probably put this real eloquently. There was no one better than Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's the perfect example of what a true wrestling manager should be. Was not afraid to say what was on his mind, whether it was funny or not. He took bumps like a boss and helped put guys over. He's an institution to the wrestling business. May God bless Bobby the Brain Heenan. Do you know the more things change, the more they stay the same? Right now in WWE, we've got so many guys, so many wrestlers that are getting constant mic time. Back in the day, it was the managers that got the mic time first, then their proteges.
Well, because in today's day and age, people equate the way your mic skills and your promo skills to your in-ring wrestling skills.
Is it me, or has the manager gone the way of the dinosaur in the business?
Well, you still have, Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman is still there, but after him, who's really left?
Well, you still have, and now Titus O'Neil has his new story as a manager too, with his Titus International. So you have those two at the moment, but other than that, and then the only other people who sometimes split between managing and wrestling, it seems, is the New Day, depending on the night, depending on who's going to be the one talking that night and who's going to be the one wrestling.
Yeah.
Between those three guys, who I know, to your ire, not...
My ire or my infuriation?
Maybe a bit of both.
Or my disgust, I should say.
Considering those guys. But anyway, let's not get too much into that. The fact is that Bobby the Brain Heenan passed away at the age of 73. We'll find out probably more information, what was the cause of death, when we'll talk about that, or not, because, it's really sad just to think about this. But he lived a great life. He lived a great life.
He lived the life, and he lived the dream, too. I'll never forget the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. He was there for Andre the Giant for that title match with Hulk Hogan.
The immovable object versus the irresistible force.
Mm-hmm. The way that match went, I mean, it was probably the second greatest match of that whole card, but because Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat by far was the greatest match that no one talks about. But Hogan versus Andre was really built up to be something special simply because of the iconic stature of those two superstars. But Bobby Heenan was there the night Andre the Giant got slammed by Hulk Hogan, and that took everybody's breath away, even Heenan's breath.
And not only that, it was the first time in 15 years that anybody defeated Andre the Giant, because he had an undefeated record, probably still one of the longest undefeated records of all time that will never be eclipsed, for what he... So right there, he's probably right now somewhere in the sky with his friend Gorilla Monsoon and Andre the Giant.
Yeah, going through a lot of banter once again.
Yep, and they're just, going over, what a great life those two led and how they all three of them changed the face of wrestling.
Yep. it pains me to say this, but I think the superstars of yesteryear are slowly but surely dying a very, very slow death.
I hope.
We still have guys left over from the good old days.
Like Ric
we
Flair.
still have Ric Flair, who is on the road to recovery. The Iron Sheik is still around. Nikolai Volkov is still around and working.
Hulk Hogan still around, even
Yep.
though he hasn't worked, but he still is alive. Right?
Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff is still around. Ricky Steamboat is still around. So the guys from WWE superstars,
Pat Patterson.
Yep, Pat Patterson is still a very powerful and talented agent with the company. Gerald Briscoe is with the company as well. He's an agent.
Who was the guy with the blonde hair who was with that team, the tag team that just got inducted a few years ago?
My guess would be Michael Hayes.
Yes.
Michael Hayes, who, by the way, spent a very short time in WWE.
But he's still backstage. I actually saw him at he does work backstage in the front office.
He's an agent now. And a lot of people remember Michael Hayes as 1/3 of the Freebirds, one of the most controversial yet colorful and charismatic six-man tag teams that ever lived.
That the New Day wish they could ever be.
The New Day could not even be in the Freebirds' shadow. But that's a story for another day.
But there's some other awesome, crazy news that happened in sports. You know, the big fight that took place this weekend between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin.
That finished in a draw, and some people are still saying that should not have been a draw.
ESPN scored at 116, 112 for Golovkin. The unofficial, as did HBO, scored it for Triple G. Now they're looking to get a rematch, but it's going to, with any rematch or any fight in boxing, it has to be between the promoters that have to get this together. So you got Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy, one of the big promoting companies, that said Alvarez would exercise rematch clause for another fight. But they had to clarify this. There's no decision that has been officially made yet. And yet Golovkin, who had this was his 19th consecutive middleweight title bout defense. He was within one of the record of tying the old-time record with the great Bernard Hopkins. So I'm hoping, that this fight will be remade at some point. Now, in the world of golf, the FedEx Cup, we're almost near the end of the season. Mark Leishman breaks the tournament record, and next week there are 30 golfers left in Atlanta for the Tour Championship this weekend to duke it out for that FedEx Cup. Will it be Dustin Johnson? Will it be Jordan Spieth? We'll find out. And Martin Truex got the first win at Chicagoland, and the road to the Monster Series Energy Cup playoffs is underway. Now, for the New York Yankees this past week, winning 5 out of 7 games.
Yeah, this was a pretty productive week for the Yankees, but I think of what could have been. Because yesterday, Boston lost, yet the Yankees lost a really disappointing game against Baltimore. They took 3 out of 4, but quite frankly, I think they should have gotten this game yesterday had it not been for some rather disappointing pitching from Sonny Gray. Can you believe John Sterling actually had the nerve to say that Sonny Gray was having a great season? Sonny Gray is 2 games under 500, and ever since he got to the Yankees, he's been a real disappointment. That's number one.
You know what? I take a little exception to him having the nerve and all that. I think, he is praising some of his performance because you have to take into consider there's some games in which he has done great. It's just his either hitting has not helped him out or done anything for him where he's pitched his heart out at times. So there are moments where the batters have not been there for him.
Yesterday was a colossal flop on this guy's part. And he also served up a 3-run gopher ball yesterday as well. And on top of all that, the Yankees just could not seem to get that big hit when they were supposed to. And now things are going to get really tough for them because they have the Twins for the next 3 games, and the Twins are the second wild card team right now. And
by 4 games.
By 4 games. And overall, the Twins have been really battling this season. They've got some really, really solid hitting in their batting order.
Miguel Sano's still injured, though. That's the thing. He's not playing tonight, but they still have some good home run hitters. But I'll be honest, how about the 30 combined runs that they scored against Toronto in the first 3 games of the series, especially that 13-5 romping with Aaron Judge having 2 3-run homers. And Gregorius having 4 RBIs on Friday and 3 home runs on Saturday. They really took the Orioles to task.
And the Yankees are playing the Twins right now. And Jaime Garcia, another guy that the Yankees acquired in a trade who also has not distinguished himself at all, is starting tonight. And tomorrow night, they're having CC Sabathia start for the Yanks. And then Wednesday, Masahiro Tanaka is starting against the ex-Yankee and Met Bartolo Colon.
If you look at what's going on around Major League Baseball at the moment, the Cleveland Indians had their winning streak snapped on Saturday, 4-3 against the Kansas City Royals, but yet they still clinched the AL Central on Sunday. As for the AL West, also clinched yesterday by the Houston Astros, so that's done and over with. In the NL East, the Nationals clinched their division weeks ago. So the remaining divisions, you have the AL East between the Yankees and the Red Sox. That's a 3-game difference. Then you got the NL Central. That's the Cubs, the Brewers, and the Cardinals. Right there, it's 2-3 games at best. In the NL West right now, the magic number for the Dodgers is 4, which most likely they're going to end up clinching before the middle of this week ends.
Yeah, that's if they can snap out of a deep slump that they were in, losing 11 in a row at one point not too long ago.
At least they clinched the playoff spot. That'll give them, at least they took care of that and they clinched the playoff spot. Now they got to clinch this division and take care of it this week because the Diamondbacks, granted, they're 9 games back. That's a lot to make up, but you never know. With the way the Dodgers were playing lately, the Diamondbacks could make a bit of a comeback, if any, possibly.
Going back to what the Yankees have been doing for the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 weeks or so, at least they've been playing a little bit better baseball. And, of course, Aaron Judge, who had been slumping since the All-Star break, is still finding ways to get on base. He's drawing more walks. He's not pulling the ball as much. He's able to drive it to other parts of the field. And what has gotten into Didi Gregorius? There was a time when shortstops used to be the weak link of the batting order, but that's going way back. Didi Gregorius has 24 home runs this season. This is a display of power from him that no one saw coming.
You have him, Sanchez, and Judge all contributing in that lineup.
And Gary Sanchez, by the way, now has a Yankee record for catches for home runs.
And how about, even Brett Gardner this year with his slugging percentage this season that has contributed in the batting order. And even at moments from Matt Holliday, too, they got in the offseason. So you have a lot of guys contributing in that batting order.
And for all of the talk about the questionable pitching staff,
Luis Severino
is now their ace. CC Sabathia has pitched his heart out. Masahiro Tanaka has been... Well, he is what his record says he is. He's a 500 pitcher, but at least he's been able to battle in a lot of his starts. Jordan Montgomery, the kid's a rookie, but at least he's had his good moments in addition to his bad moments.
He's got a really good future ahead of him.
Yeah, he definitely has a good future ahead of him.
As for the bullpen right now, it's actually gotten better than what we've seen weeks. Remember weeks ago when they had their meltdown again in Boston? I think Chapman realized ever since he was taken away from the closer's role and made up as a setup man, I think that put a lot of things into perspective for him, and he started to get his mechanics back, and he started to have better velocity with his pitches. And then you look at Dylan Betances, too, is really contributing as well in that bullpen. So
I still worry about that bullpen, though. You know how many saves they've blown this season? 20 blown saves this year, collectively, as a bullpen.
But lately, at least, things have gotten a lot better for the bullpen. I think
Let's see what they can do the last couple of weeks, though, because the competition is going to get really tougher. After the Twins, they've got the Blue Jays, they've got the Rays once again, and then they finish the season at home against Baltimore. That's 3 division opponents, and also they have a makeup game with Kansas City.
And Baltimore, though, they've rocked them this season. 11 wins, so they've dominated the Orioles this year. And as for the Blue Jays, who just, the Twins actually played yesterday in Toronto, and that's where they have to go this week. That's going to be a very tough series. As for the Mets this year, it's basically they're looking forward towards 2018, and
they've got a lot. They've got a lot of questions that they have to answer.
Rotation, hitting, outfield. Is Terry Collins even going to be on the team next year? And on top,
I'm hearing that he's going to be fired and that they're going to bring back Sandy Alderson to be the general manager.
oh man,
And let me tell you, for all of the criticism that this guy has gotten, no one seems to remember any of the savvy deals that he's made. I mean, keep in mind, he's been able to pull off trades for Jay Bruce, Curtis Granderson, Lucas Duda, Neil Walker, Addison Reed. He let René Rivera go on waivers.
Yoenis Cespedes.
Yep, and also he's gotten a decent return. He's been able to build his farm system for down the road. So for all of the bad that this guy has done, there's still some of the stuff that's been pretty solid for him. And of course, keep in mind he also made the Yoenis Cespedes trade, which put them over the top to win the pennant 2 years ago.
In fact, it was the last 40 games of the 2015 season when they had Yoenis Cespedes. They went 25-15 down the road because of that trade. It significantly improved their batting order. And yes, they had to give up Michael Fulmer and Luis Cessa, who eventually Cessa is now pitching, I believe, in the Yankees rotation or in the Yankees organization or either in their bullpen or farm system. But as for the Mets itself, there's
also the issue of a couple of the rookies that they have on the team, specifically Dominic Smith, who has been hit or miss so far playing first base, and Ahmed Rosario, who even though he has not been hitting the ball particularly great, still manages to find ways to get on base. Have you seen the kid run every single time he gets on base? It's like he's Usain Bolt on the bases. He looks tremendous.
Well, that's why those two are going to be a part of that 2018 team for sure. Now, the outfield is a whole different story. Now that Granderson's on, Jay Bruce not there, next year, Yoenis Cespedes has to have that remarkable season. He's got to be healthy.
He also has to be healthy. That's first and foremost. And that's another thing. That whole roster reads of a mass unit. Cespedes, Michael Conforto
who may not even be able to pitch this next year, and not only that, who play next year, and who knows about the future with him as well, that injury he sustained.
That's another thing. As far as the pitching staff is concerned, it's not a matter of who's going to be on the staff. It's who's going to be healthy. Everybody except Jacob deGrom has been missing either the entire season or 3/4 of the season because they've been hurt.
Matt Harvey's actually pitching in tonight's game.
And Noah Syndergaard, who we thought was going to be making a return sometime these next couple of weeks, looks like he's going to be shut down for the year. I don't even know why they even considered bringing him back in the first place, especially considering this whole season's been a wash.
Exactly. Why risk having Syndergaard come in when he's not, honestly, probably 100% for a season with nothing on the line? What, just so he can get a rep in or two? Then have him just go down to St. Lucie, to Port St. Lucie, and work out. That's what he should be doing, not pitching at all in any New York Met game for the rest of this 2017 debacle of a season. And on top of all that, for 2018, Terry Collins should not even be the manager going to next year. I wish they could get Wally Backman so badly.
His history with the franchise is a really stormy one. They're not going to consider him at all. As for Terry Collins, let's face facts. There's no justifying being under 500 5 times in 7 years. But the question is, who are they going to go to? Who's out there?
Well, they'll try.
Wally Backman's out. Sorry, but he's committed way too many blunders in his life where he would warrant even consideration for a job interview.
Well, there's going to be players out there. I wouldn't be shocked if any, like, say, the bench coach for the Indians interview for the Mets job, or somebody from the Red Sox organization possibly interview. You're going to get a lot of people from other organizations always interviewing for an open managerial position because there's only 30 of them out there, just like with the NFL. They always go out for the next big offensive or defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. We've seen that in the past so far, like Mike Zimmer, for instance, when he was a DC for the Cincinnati Bengals, and the good job he did, he eventually got the head coaching job in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And
there's one thing that we have not mentioned in regards to the Mets. It's David Wright.
Done.
Now he has undergone a very serious shoulder surgery. Is it possible that we may have seen the last of that young man?
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't
He
mean
didn't
to
play-
be a jerk.
He's
But
played 75 games in 3 years. His 35th birthday is right around the corner, yet he has the body of someone who might be 75 to 80 years of age.
he should just quit while he's ahead and think about his health. Run his foundation, do some good charitable work, maybe become a baseball coach for a local high school or college or a mentor, but don't play the game of baseball again, David. Your body just cannot take it. And I don't mean to be a jerk. I don't mean to be unsympathetic or like I don't care for what you're going through, because I do care for you. That's why I'm telling you, David, and probably others are telling you, quit the game.
Well, he's not going to take this lying down, though.
Of course he won't, because
One thing that we know about David is he's a really competitive guy. He's going to try and do something next season where he's going to think he wants to do this at least one last time, because he's not going to let injuries force him out. He wants to do this on his own terms. If he's going to retire, he's going to retire on his own terms. He just wants to see if he still has anything left in his swing where he could last for 130 games next year.
he can't even last for probably a month. That's the sad part. When was the last time he played a full season? I mean, a full season. Was it 4 years ago? Other than that,
2014 was his last full season.
I cannot see him coming back and playing the game baseball anymore. And like I said, I don't mean to be unsympathetic or a jerk or somebody who's mean towards David. That's why I'm saying this stuff, because I'm thinking about his health, his life, that he needs to quit and just move on from baseball. He needs to move on. If that makes me a jerk, fine. Then I am the biggest jerk in the world, and I'll take that with a badge of honor.
It just makes you another critic.
It's not a critic. I'm being concerned for the guy. I am concerned for him. That's the way I'm looking. I'm concerned for his health, his livelihood, because if he continues to play and he's not healthy, God forbid something bad happens to him, he could be paralyzed for the rest of his life or have a debilitating injury that could really undo him. So that's why
Spinal stenosis is a really serious and very, very painful disease. But at the same time, seeing how competitive he is, I don't think he's done yet. I think he's going to give this one last go.
Then he's a fool to me. But if he proves every quote-unquote critic, when we're really concerned for him, wrong.
It depends on what his doctors say. If his doctors say that he could probably do this maybe as a designated hitter somewhere, much less a third baseman, that's one thing. But playing third base every day,
no, but if you can go out and prove us all
that's
wrong,
really risking things.
Then I will apologize and admit, if that happens next year, that, David, I was wrong. And you know what? You proved me wrong. You proved us all wrong.
It's his decision. Let's face facts. This is his decision. There is a bright side to this New York sports scene. And you know what that is?
Football.
Yes, but there's something else, too.
Not the Jets, though. The Giants are more brightful, even though they lost.
It actually started over the weekend. It
Hockey.
started over the weekend. That's right. Hockey season unofficially began. And here in the New York area, the Islanders, Rangers, and Devils have all started their preseasons tonight. The Islanders and Rangers against each other, and the Devils against the Washington Capitals.
Then you know what? The new expansion, Golden Knights of Vegas, started their first game. They won 9-4 this past weekend. So this is really a good one. I love the fact that hockey's returning, and I can't wait to see the New York Rangers debut of Kevin Shattenkirk. This was a guy, 28 years old, one of the most highly touted defensive free agents from the Washington Capitals. Now he's going to be on his hometown team for a third of what he could be making somewhere else.
This was a classic example of a hometown discount. By the way, the Islanders and Rangers are playing each other at the Garden, and they're scoreless with 7:26 in the first period. I figured I'd just mention that. Speaking of the Islanders, did you hear about what happened with their preseason opener? The Islanders had their preseason opener just yesterday against the Flyers at Nassau Coliseum, the now reconstructed 13,000-seat Nassau Coliseum.
Probably much better looking, not as rickety. Like the old Nassau Coliseum looked,
It's refurbished, reconstructed, sold out, too. They actually sold out the preseason game, but there's one problem that's going to really make the fans really, really unhappy. It's already made the fans unhappy, and that's the long lines for the restrooms. Because the walkways leading to the restrooms are so tiny and so claustrophobic, you wonder how these fans are able to walk around trying to get to their seats.
At the new Nassau Coliseum.
At the new Nassau Coliseum.
They really made it. You would think, they would learn from the past and all that.
They went from 16,000 to 13,000.
3,000 seat reduction. And the fact that things are, wow. I guess they did not learn their lesson from the previous.
They did not learn their lesson whatsoever, these people from Nassau County. And now, word has it that if this does not work out with the people at Nassau, they're going to try and build another arena on the site of Aqueduct.
That would be something right there. The traffic would be insane, of course, especially with the Bell Parkway. But at the same time, if they can get a deal, because they were trying, there were talks, by Newsday had a storyline about possibly Citi Field in that area trying to get a hockey stadium.
Yeah, they've been talking about Citi Field. They've been talking about Aqueduct. They've been talking about Comac, Long Island as well, where the New York Nets, before they became the New Jersey Nets, before they became the Brooklyn Nets.
That's a nice 2-hour drive.
Yeah, played their home games back in the old ABA days. But right now, the Islanders have a third season that they're going to be playing in Brooklyn. No one is happy about the move to Brooklyn 3 years after the fact, so they're going to have to try and make something of this season, first off. The big story with the Islanders is John Tavares' contract situation, because he's in his walk year now, and there's still been no talk of an extension yet.
Which is really something, considering he has he's one of the most transformative figures on that Islanders team since he was drafted. And so that's utterly ridiculous. He is the centerpiece of everything they do offensively and defensively, too. He's the whole show to me when it comes to the Islanders. And then you think of the Devils this year, a team that's trying to avoid yet another losing season with Schneider at goaltender.
Well, at least they have the luxury of the first overall pick from this past June's draft to look forward to. And right now, all indications are Nico Hischier is going to be a really good player for them down the road.
And as for the rest of the NHL, the other storyline will be, can the Penguins defend their championship from last year? What about San Jose? Will they actually get to the Stanley Cup Finals? Will the Chicago Blackhawks overcome the embarrassment? Can Nashville get back to the Stanley Cup Finals this year and make another big run? Because look at the moves they made last year to acquire all these players, and the deal they made to get PK Subban, who made it with him and Roman Josi together in that defensive backfield, made a huge difference. So and Shea Weber, of course, the captain of the team, married to one of the greatest country artists in the world.
Yep. Carrie Underwood, of course.
And on top of that, the fans in Nashville, you should see the pride that they have. I got to see this playoffs really showed me about the hospitality they have towards anybody who comes to see their games, whether you're a Nashville fan or not. The fun that is there with the country music artists that come to perform there, because it is the mecca of country music, and the catfish that they threw. It reminded me of Detroit, where they throw the squid on the ice, or the old rubber rats for the Panthers. I love that type of atmosphere for a hockey game. I like fun atmospheres, like not boring, stuffy atmospheres where you can't do anything of that nature.
Yeah. And here's another scoreboard update. The Devils are trailing the Capitals 1-0 in the first period.
And the Golden Knights right now, the experiment at the because I believe they're playing, obviously they're playing at the T-Mobile Arena this year.
T-Mobile Arena is going to be the Knights' home for all 41 games this season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that might also be the place where they play a future All-Star game if you will, either in the NHL or maybe even the NBA.
I wouldn't be shocked to see the NBA do it in Las Vegas as well. And yesterday, during the Jets' abysmal loss to the
brother.
Raiders, they were showing caricatures, actually, a display of the new arena in Las Vegas for the Raiders. And
Yeah.
it looks really nice in the off the strip.
As much as they should feel satisfied about finally getting a stadium of their own, I just wish that they could have done something to keep the franchise in Oakland, because they're doing this for the second time now. They're stabbing some really proud Raider fans in the back.
They could thank their mayor.
By leaving again.
You could thank the city, the mayor, and the people, the government of Oakland County for the reason why the Raiders are leaving that decrepit stadium that is substandard, to say the least.
By the way, I just got another sports alert. Aaron Judge just hit another home run. He's had 44 home runs this season. For all this talk about what Giancarlo Stanton is doing with the Marlins, and it is really impressive, Aaron Judge is mashing home runs left and right.
As a rookie, and on top
As a rookie.
And he's going to the playoffs, as opposed to Giancarlo Stanton, whose team is the magic number for them to be eliminated is 1 tonight when the Mets play them.
Speaking of Mets and Marlins, who they do play each other tonight, what would you say to a Yoenis Cespedes for Giancarlo Stanton trade?
If that were to happen, one, contract would have to be worked out, especially with Giancarlo's insane, enormous 13-year contract. We have to
keep in mind he has an out clause in a couple of years.
That's the problem, and his history, he's had a history where he hasn't played a full season at times. So that's the other thing we got to look into. And the same thing, that's going to be the big factor, is the health of both players and contracts. Money and health are probably going to be the two determining factors if this trade even happens and it gets proposed. So I don't know if that will honestly happen. At the same time, he would definitely bring some more fans and excitement to Citi Field. And I think for Miami, for Yoenis Cespedes, a Cuban national,
Yep.
a lot of the Cuban fans would definitely be flocking to the Miami arena for sure. So I think for both fan bases, it would be exciting for sure. But at the same time, it's the health of these two players, the contract disparity, especially with Giancarlo Stanton versus Cespedes. So there's a lot of things and variables that would have to be worked out before this even becomes a reality. Now, as for the NFL yesterday, we entered the second week of the NFL season.
The second week of the season actually began as of this past Thursday when Tennessee denied Cincinnati the end zone. When Houston denied Cincinnati the end zone.
13-9. In fact, Deshaun Watson had a 44-yard rushing touchdown, which was spectacular.
Yep.
And the second straight week where they couldn't score a touchdown, Cincinnati.
I'm telling you, do not sleep on Deshaun Watson. The kid is going to be a good one. Now, as for yesterday, what was thought to be the best game of the day, Cowboys and Broncos, turned out to be
disparaging.
The most one-sided game of the day. And who, quite frankly, if you were a betting man and you had to bet on whether Trevor Siemian or Dak Prescott would throw 4 touchdowns in yesterday's game, I would say 99.9% of the people would have said
Dak.
It was going to be Dak Prescott. It was Trevor Siemian who threw 4 touchdowns in a game, and Ezekiel Elliott was held to 8 yards on 9 carries.
That's less than a yard a carry for a guy who usually averages over 100 yards each game, over 110 yards each game, and mostly averages 5 yards per carry.
Here's another question. Will the real Trevor Siemian please stand up?
And what about Aqib Talib yesterday in that 103-yard interception for that pick six with 53 seconds to go? And then Trevor Siemian had 4 touchdowns, 2 of which went to Emmanuel Sanders for 10 and 6 yards in the first half to make it a 21-10 lead. And then C.J. Anderson had 108 yards on the ground, and he had a scoring a catching touchdown too to boot. So he had 2 total touchdowns in the game. So if you had C.J. Anderson, if you had Trevor Siemian in your fantasy, and if you had the Denver defense as well, you made a lot of points yesterday, and they won against Dallas 42-17.
And after Elliott's performance yesterday, there was a certain Hall of Fame running back who was born and raised in the state of Texas, who referred to Zeke as a quitter yesterday on the NFL Network. It was LaDainian Tomlinson, who just got inducted last month. First of all, give LT credit for calling the kid out and calling a spade, because he wasn't just watching his performance yesterday, he was watching his body language. He called him out for not giving 100%. He also called him out for not communicating with teammates on the sideline. He wanted nothing to do with talking to his teammates on the sideline.
I think, and this sounds like such an excuse, but I honestly believe the situation that's going on with him personally with the NFL is really getting to him.
He didn't have that problem against the Giants.
I know. Because at that time he had remember, going into that game the first week of the season, he had the injunction. Let's not forget, and so that cleared him to play for the whole year. But then the NFL responded with that ruling by that Dallas court. Yeah, and the Dallas court, after that, they decided to appeal that decision. So this is not ending. This is going to continue on till the end of the season. So right now, that's the cloud that I think is right now hanging over Ezekiel Elliott's head, along with the other legal issues that he's had in the offseason. So we just saw basically a taste of what's to come if things don't get corrected for week 3 and beyond. As for the Redskins yesterday, overcoming that loss at home week 1, they were able to get a big 11-yard pass to Ryan Grant with about 1:49 to play. And the Rams, I'll be honest, had a lot of fight in them yesterday. They were down at one point 20-10, and yet, were
able to tie the score before Kirk Cousins wound up coming through in the clutch.
My favorite was Todd Gurley on that swing pass, and he is for 18 yards, and he was able to get the ball over the pylon to make it 20-17. And Greg the Leg Zuerlein made it 20-all with his field goal. But at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins got the winning touchdown, and they're going home. Sunday Night Football against the Oakland Raiders. Now, the 49ers and the Seahawks, that was 12-9 right there. The only score of the game was a 9-yard pass into the front corner of the end zone from Russell Wilson to Paul Richardson, and Russell Wilson avoiding 2 potential sacks by Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. And the 49ers are just pitiful to watch. The Bears, talk about pitiful too. They lost 29-7 to the Buccaneers. Jameis Winston had a touchdown. And Mike Glennon, his day came with 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 turnovers in his return to Tampa. And you wonder why Winston was the starter over him. And then the Cleveland Browns, yikes, 2 quarterbacks, and still neither one of them could beat the Baltimore Ravens in that vaunted defense. 24-10 they lost. And unbelievable. Even before the headache that Deshaun Kaiser had in the second quarter, he had a 3-and-out, a lost fumble, an interception, and a punt on his first 4 drives. It took Kevin Hogan, the second-year pro out of Stanford, to get a touchdown finally.
Yep. Now, whereas this was pretty one-sided, how about Buffalo versus Carolina? I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a big win for the Panthers.
For both defenses, really. Yeah. That's what I loved. Both defenses really played a great game.
If you're a fan of defense, you will appreciate and respect the efforts of both teams yesterday.
If you're a Greg Olsen fan, you're going to be really hurting. You're going to be hurting because he's out 6 to 8 weeks with a foot injury. First time in his 10-year career he's ever been out for an extended period of time with injury.
That's really going to be a crushing loss for them. Now who's going to be the guy who's going to try and not only protect the line, but also be that X factor coming out of the backfield, or coming out of the line, I should say.
They're really going to have to rely a lot on McCaffrey now. They're going to really have to give him some more plays for sure, because he only had 12 carries for 44 yards. And then on top of that, Kelvin Benjamin is going to be keyed on, so you really can't go to Kelvin a lot. They're going to have to go to some of their other players for sure. So it's going to be a long season without him, but at least the defense is there to back them up. And the fact that the defense has held a team for the second straight week to 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. And you got to give it up to the defense of the Bills, too, for only giving up 9 points and not giving up many scores.
Now, whereas the Panthers came away with a crucial win, the Colts had a golden opportunity to steal a game from a struggling team like the Cardinals. And what happens? Not only do they not take advantage of a missed field goal at the end of regulation, they give up the game-winning field goal in overtime. And this upgrade to Jacoby Brissett, I mean, the numbers weren't terrible. 20 for 37, 216 yards, but he also committed a critical turnover. Where is the running game? You're supposed to carry an offense by running the football.
Well,
Where was Frank Gore?
He had a 5-yard touchdown. He had 46 yards in the game. He did actually score, but Marlon Mack, he was seldom used, if ever. And on top of that, they only scored on the first, it was 10-0 at one point, touchdown by Brissett, and a field goal. And that was pretty much that was it. And they didn't score again until the fourth quarter with Adam Vinatieri when they were with a 29-yard field goal. So they were up 13-3. And then you had the touchdown pass that Palmer threw to J.J. Nelson, the greatest catch. He goes between two defenders in double coverage for a 45-yard pass down the right sideline to make it 13-10. And then Phil Dawson ties the game up in the fourth quarter as well, making it 13-all. He had a chance with time expired to get a 42-yarder that went wide right. Mm-hmm. But then the interception by Tyron, the Honey Badger Matthew, and the Cardinals defense. So the Cardinals took advantage, and eventually a game-winning field goal by Phil Dawson, 30 yards. They win 16-13. They came back from 10 points down.
Yep. And it was Carson Palmer playing like the 14-year veteran that he is that wound up orchestrating the game-winning drive. This is what separates veterans from guys who just have not gotten the reps that they need in order to be more seasoned.
The Kareem Hunt experiment is still going strong. 2 touchdowns in the end zone. Travis Kelce with that shovel pass, 15-yard catch. And despite the penalty he had earlier in the game, the Chiefs still ended up winning 27-20 over Philadelphia. The teacher defeated the student in this edition of this match.
And with all this talk of Alex Smith being involved in trade rumors, he completed 75% of his passes. That's first of all. Second of all, Kareem Hunt, I know it's only 2 games, but he is looking like the real deal right now.
Yeah, there's no joke.
I think the Chiefs should really think twice about trading this guy once the season is over, because I'm not really sure if Patrick Mahomes is ready yet.
And what about Alshon Jeffrey? He's making the most out of his 1-year contract with the Eagles. He's really been a very good weapon so far for Carson Wentz. But at the end of the day, the fact that he threw a pass that bounced off Justin Houston into the arms of Chris Jones, that is what ended up hurting them in the end, because Kansas City had the ball deep in Eagles territory. Kelce gets into the end zone 5. That was the turning point of the game. And then yesterday, the Patriots, coming back from a humiliating loss to the Chiefs that we just talked about, and yet they go to New Orleans and they rock the Saints 36-20. And here's the crazy part. If you're a Saints defense, you have 2 interceptions off of Tom Brady, and yet why can't you take advantage of that? Oh, yeah, that's right, because they get penalized and wiping out those interceptions.
Yep.
Against a quarterback that rarely gives up said interceptions.
Yeah. This is what separates a really good defense from a really incompetent one.
That's for sure. They for the 4th straight year, the Saints are 0-2.
Yep.
While the Patriots are the sleeping giant that just got back into the mix, because you should never, ever count them out, and they won 36-20. Titans.
And to think, everybody was wondering if the Patriots' title reign was done and whether Tom Brady was old. It boggles the mind how many people want to push the panic button after one game.
I know, really. That's
not just in this game, but every game.
First off, if you got a guy like Tom Brady as your quarterback under center and you have Belichick as your head coach, do not ever, ever hit the panic button. Just know that things always come back into fruition. Now, the Titans went to the Jaguars and took it to them. And, of course, the real Blake Bortles, he really stepped up.
Yep.
3 turnovers. And Derrick Henry had a career-high 92 yards and 14 carries on the ground, 87 in the last 2 quarters alone, and the Titans beat the Jaguars 37-16. You know, here's the crazy part. Not only did Derrick Henry and Justin Fowler had a rushing touchdown, but their tight end, Delaney Walker, had a rushing touchdown. How insane is that?
Not insane at all, because when you think about it, this team has enough balance offensively with Mariota and Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray and Delaney Walker as well. And now they have Eric Decker as an extra toy for Mariota to play with.
And Corey Davis as well, another rookie right there. They have some good weapons for Mariota for sure. And, of course, he's a weapon unto himself.
Depending on matchups, the Titans can win a lot of games this season.
That's for sure. And how about the Vikings? The Purple People Eaters did not exist, but the Steel Curtain came to town. And on top of that, when your star quarterback unfortunately cannot play in Sam Bradford and you have Case Keenum, this is what happens. And that's why he's 9-15 as a starter.
This is also why
9-16.
Yeah. This is also why the Vikings really miss Teddy Bridgewater taking the snaps from under center. They really need to get him back if they're going to try and compete this season.
How about the 4-yard pass, the shovel pass to Juju Smith-Schuster, the rookie out of USC? He's really coming into his own. Yep, and Roethlisberger led them to a 26-9 victory, 2 first-half touchdowns. And then the Dolphins, in their seasonal debut because of Hurricane Irma ending not letting their first season game happen.
Yeah.
But they were able to get to Southern California.
Yeah.
And they took the Chargers, and especially Cody Parkey, 4 field goals in the game winner, 54 yards with 1:05 to play. And Younghoe Koo, who basically had a chance to get the game winner from 44 yards out with 5 seconds left after Phil Rivers made some incredible throws on that drive, misses it wide left.
That's 2 either game-winning or game-tying kicks that he's butchered down the stretch.
1917, Jay Cutler won his debut. Now he's coming to MetLife. And then the Falcons Sunday Night Football, Matt Ryan, 252 yards, 5 catches of 108 yards to 5 of those throws to Julio Jones complete of 108 yards. In the new $1.5 billion Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they even led 24-7 at half.
So much for this being the best game of the day. I mean, the Falcons basically turned this into a repeat of last year, only the Packers were able to get a couple of garbage time scores down the stretch.
Yeah, to Ty Montgomery here and there, but Devonta Freeman had a big scoring run. How about Desmond Trufant, picking off Aaron Rodgers that ruled the fumble?
Now we go from the sublime to the ridiculous. If there was ever a time when Jet fans should probably not just change the channel on their TV sets, but also burn their jerseys, burn their hats, burn their T-shirts, or maybe sell off any Jets memorabilia that they have,
except this.
It's now. Because, don't get me wrong, at least, the effort has been there. They've played hard. But at the same time, you have to have a good, consistent game plan to stop the run. And yesterday, Marshawn Lynch and his other new set of teammates,
Cordero Patterson, Jalen Richard, these guys basically ran roughshod. They basically
made the Jets defense look like the old Columbia University defense that lost 41 games in a row back in the 80s. But that's beside the point. The point is, this was basically apples and oranges here. The Raiders are contending for a championship. The Jets, in spite of the fact that they're just downright dreadful,
sucking for Sam,
are let's face facts. They're basically looking ahead to the next game right now, and it's not going to get any better for them. Because after this, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Jets have a division opponent that they have coming up, don't they?
They got the Miami Dolphins.
They have the Dolphins in the home opener, and you better believe Jet fans are going to be wanting to maybe I think they might want to throw some objects onto the field in protest. I mean,
I don't know if they
far
should.
be it from me to condone throwing objects onto the field, but how much more should these fans be subjected to? It's gotten to the point where enough is enough already. We can't even complain about the offense because at least the offense was able to muster a couple of touchdowns yesterday.
Including Jermaine Kearse. He was one of the few bright spots. So at least, you know what? You got a reliable receiver who comes to work every week. And you saw that, especially in Super Bowl 49, when he made that was the touchdown that could have got the Seahawks to a second straight Super Bowl. One of the most improbable catches I've ever seen in my lifetime. So this guy is capable of making those big plays happen. But at the same time, the quarterback you have throwing to you in Josh, you know what's sad about Josh McCown and some other quarterbacks? They had more rushing yards combined than Ezekiel Elliott. That's really sad right there and funny. But what was not funny was that rushing defense of the Jets. Second straight week, they've given up
no resistance, no clue on how to try and stuff a gap. No game plan, no nothing from this run defense.
370 combined rushing yards in the first 2 games that have resulted in a total of, I believe, 5 rushing touchdowns. They're one of the worst rushing offenses in the league, and this is a team that has prided itself in the last 5 years of being a top 10 rushing defense. So if you can't stop the run and you can't produce the run that much on offense, even though yesterday was a lot better than week 1, what else is there for the Jets? Because obviously, other than Jermaine Kearse, they have little of any offense.
And if they could not stop LaShawn McCoy or Beast Mode yesterday, what's going to happen when they go up against Jay Ajayi?
I am afraid.
And Jay Cutler.
Not just Jay Cutler, but what about Jarvis Landry yesterday, who had 13 targets against Seattle, had 13 catches.
13 catches yesterday.
On 15 targets against the Chargers. And then you think about Devontae Parker, too, in that receiving core. And the tight end that they acquired from Jacksonville. I am literally afraid for Jet fans who are going to be, they should pass out barf bags, maybe lunch bags with holes so they can put their eyes over it.
What they need to do is protest. That's what they need to do.
Alcohol? Well, I'm kidding.
Not alcohol.
I'm kidding on that
Do something, anything, to let the fan base or the front office know that enough is enough.
Well, here's an idea. Next season, get a coach that actually will fight for you and not have that semi-smile on his face like Todd Bowles does. It's creepy almost watching his press conferences or watching him on the sideline who has no emotion whatsoever. At least Jack Del Rio yesterday. Jack Del Rio had some emotion on his face for Oakland. Where the hell is the fight from Todd Bowles? That's what I would like to know. And this John Morton West Coast offense they're trying out is not working out with some of the players they have. And the defense this year is an indictment of Rodgers, the coordinator, or is it Bowles?
It's a combination of personnel and coaching.
So this week, and as for tonight's game for the Giants against the Lions, what do the Giants have to do to win?
What the Giants have to do? Stop Matthew Stafford. It's simple. Put a rush on him. If they can put a rush on Matthew Stafford, then they'll take away the head of that Lions offense because that running game that they have is very, very weak. Their defense is not as great as advertised. Don't let that Cardinal game fool you.
And what about the left side of that whole offensive line for the Giants? They got to give Eli Manning enough time in the pocket to make a play. He cannot do plays in 3-4 second times. He needs at least 6, 7, maybe even 8 seconds in the pocket to be able to make a play tonight, especially against, Detroit. And if I were him, do not throw to wherever Glover Quinn is, because Glover Quinn can make Eli Manning pay in the worst way tonight. And
quickly on college football, best game of the day was USC beating Texas in overtime. Clemson destroying Louisville and Lamar Jackson the way they did was a complete and utter dud.
Yep.
That's going to do it for us, folks. Thanks to Kenny on the other side of the grass, and thanks to you. I said the other side of the grass. The other side of the glass, I should say. And thanks to you guys for watching at home.
Hey, thank you.
For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Eric.
Good night.
Peace, Staten Island, and love.